Protein Bros, welcome. Thank you for coming.
What's up, buddy?
Happy to be
Thank
here,
you
man.
for having us on, man.
Absolutely. We had to reschedule, but we're here now. It's 12 degrees and dropping outside, but we made it happen. We got to thank Luke for stepping in and saving the day, too. My podcast producer, Min, has COVID and a upper respiratory infection. Dude can barely talk right now.
Wow.
Can't believe he took the day off. Unbelievable.
I think he was expecting to get a ass chin from me, too, about it. But I'm like, dude, you got to be healthy. Like, what the hell?
Yeah,
Bro, think about this. 3 years ago, he'd have had to be away for like 14 days.
Right.
Go away for 14 days. Don't even think about it. Don't even look at anybody.
Yeah. No,
You're actually a piece of shit if
You're
you
a
leave
piece
your
of
house.
shit if you come out.
Yeah, I mean that was another real.
he
thing.
offered to come in. He's like, I'll just wear a mask. I'm like, nah, dude. Like, you sound terrible.
Yeah.
You're staying home.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Luke
You're
saved
just
the
giving
day.
everybody free Fijis out here. Look at you.
We're not supposed to drink them. They're just so I look high class.
Oh,
I'm
whoops!
just kidding.
I'll give you
Nah,
the
I'm just
$8.
playing. Yeah,
the
right?
hotel price.
Nah, dog. You buy those in bulk on Amazon. They're not bad. But speaking of water, have you guys heard anything about the hydrogen water that's trending pretty hard right now?
No, we've definitely been around the supplement game long enough to know that people can change water and try to make it fancier, and it typically hasn't worked out so far. We've had hydrolyzed water in our life. People have made
pH balanced water.
pH balanced water, hydrolyzed water. It's called Hydrolyzed Plus. P. Diddy came out with a water, Aqua Hydrate. None of it's been better than water so far.
I think water
So
in
tell us
general,
about it.
though, is like tap water is kind of, it's been shown to have a lot of additives to it that are over time
it's
not
terrible.
great for you.
Well, and it's like imagine somebody
The
throws
microplastics.
Somebody says, I'm not taking this prescription anymore, and they flush it. And
Oh,
that gets
yeah.
processed. You can't tell me some of that stuff doesn't find its way back into our drinking supply.
For sure.
You know what I mean? No, so I was watching, it's been a few weeks, Gary Brecka, 10X Health.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in that space too now. He's brilliant, so I really listen when he talks. But he's like, dude, hydrogen water. So what are these? Are these bottles? And so I believe hydrogen it's the smallest molecule known to man. So you can ingest it and it'll penetrate to the cells, according to him. And I think it's a proton, an electron, whatever. I may be messing that up, but so you push this bottle. I bought one, and it infuses the water. You can see all these bubbles coming up, and after like 3 minutes, you drink it. You have to drink it within 30 minutes, but yeah, it's supposed to like reduce oxidative stress, like help your skin, stuff like that. So,
So it reduces.
yeah,
You can't say it reduces cancer, but supposedly
We'll see.
that's what it's doing.
Prime
So
Health.
this bottle actually makes every water a hydrogen water.
So yeah, Prime Health may or may not be launching one in February.
That's cool.
So what I'm saying is like I could put in any water into this and it
So
creates it.
Yeah, so like my house, I have a reverse osmosis system.
I was just about
I think
to mention
everybody should do that
Yeah.
for their homes. And then I put it in the bottle, and then you push the button, and it infuses. Like it's not. You can tell it literally is. There's just tons of bubbles, and it tastes different. It definitely tastes different. And there's another add-on to this product. So I've been working with a manufacturer actually to make our own hydrogen bottles, but the version 2.0 that we're coming out with, there's a nasal tube, so you can inhale it as well. So we'll be talking when I go out to Phoenix next month. Andy and I will be talking about this on his podcast. But so hydrogen is excellent for cell repair in the lungs. And so I'm like, man, after COVID, everybody has all this long COVID, all this stuff. So you can literally put in this nasal tube and inhale. You switch it, put a different adapter on it, and then you see if you want to inhale it. So, yeah, I was just curious because you guys are in the supplement world. I didn't know what your opinion of was. I'll get you on and see what you think.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, dude, honestly, in our industry, it's so hard to.
It's exhausting.
When things come out that are new like that, it's hard to decipher. It just takes a while to see. What has staying power and what doesn't.
So because we do not manufacture our own goods, right? For us, it seems like it makes more sense to wait to see what sticks.
Sure.
Before you throw a bunch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we get our door knocked down, unfortunately, with a bunch of stuff that doesn't try to break the mold, right? Where it's not genuinely like a new concept. It's someone trying to reinvent the wheel over and over and over and over again. Like, hey, you guys should try our pre-workout. Hey, you guys should try our amino acid powder. And it's like, bro, like, do you really think we need a 17th brand of amino acids.
Right.
That has no demand.
That no one has walked in asking for.
Right.
And so, honestly, like I geek out over, fun, new, innovative business. Yesterday we reviewed the new pizza chip from Legendary Foods, and it's like we've all had protein chips, but this one was like a popcorner type chip where it's like it's not trying to be a tortilla chip.
Okay.
It's trying to be more like a pop chip, right? And it's 5 carbs in the whole bag. Sure. And it's like not 5 net carbs. It's 5 total carbs. And it's only 6 fat and it's 20 protein. And like that's a crazy macro profile for a full bag of chips. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's innovative.
Is there any fibrous carbs in that, or is it
only
just
one?
So it's technically a net 4.
Right. Correct. But I mean, like usually in the last 10 years, this has been very popular to find these really low net carb type snacks, right? But the sugar alcohol is 12 grams or 10 grams, or this fiber is at like 10 grams, and so your total carb count's over 20 almost every time. But this is at 5.
That's cool.
And then when you taste it, you're like, holy shit, this tastes exactly like a pop chip, and it tasted exactly like pizza. And it was just like, this is crazy. This is innovative. Like this is definitely groundbreaking type of product compared to the masses, right?
People are trying to be more cognizant of what they're eating. Like I almost won't eat a processed meal anymore. Maybe every now and then I'll go out for a cheat, right?
Sure.
But Whole Foods at all time. I think the stuff tastes too good for a reason.
Dude, you know what, too? I buy a half a cow from I have a hunting property, and the guy that lives next to me, he's a cattle rancher. And I buy a half a cow from him, and now I can't even eat normal beef anymore. Because I'm like, whoa, dude.
It tastes totally different.
This is so much better. This is so much tastier.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
And it's
I got some of his beef.
Yeah.
And or we'll go to like Golden Belt Beef on Overland Park. We'll try their beef, and then it's like I'll go to Costco. and get
grass
beef.
fed, like
and you're like,
and I'd had grass fed beef before, but man, it's so when you know where it's coming
so
from,
tasty,
and it's coming
dude,
right to
and
you.
it tastes totally different.
But it's like it's just one of those things where it's like what you were talking about. It's slowly reducing how much food that you're eating that is coming from a source that has been manipulated in some
heavily
capacity.
processed.
Yeah, I saw something. Mark Zuckerberg's getting into the beef industry somewhere or another, like Wagyu beef or something like that.
Yeah, that makes you raise your eyebrow a lot.
Part of me wants to think that he's going to do it the right way, but there's like, nah.
You see his underground apartment or whatever in Hawaii is like underground condo for 50.
When you get that rich,
really?
you start
Research,
turning it over
Google
into
loop.
like a
Mark Zuckerberg
evil,
underground compound in Hawaii.
Comic book evil villain is what he kind of like comes off as. You're just
yeah, dude.
He is the first
Got that mousy face.
He's the first of the robots.
Makes you wonder.
Hey, there's a new Wagyu beef place opening in Kansas City in Overland Park.
Is that right?
Like you can go to a retail storefront and it'll be Wagyu only.
Okay.
Wow.
So I'm just excited.
I mean, now that I'm
American
not bodybuilding,
Wagyu.
that makes a little more sense, but I was such a meathead before. I'm like, dude, I can't afford to eat like that when I'm eating 7 meals a day.
Yeah.
Get outta here.
Well,
you're like, that's 80% fat, 20% protein.
Yeah,
it's definitely not a daily use meal. That's for sure.
Right on.
But yeah, man, just want to be healthy. It's been a minute since I've, it's so weird, man. We've talked about some stuff like this over the years, but it's like, I got my job when I was 19 years old. So this is kind of a share, but
you were working directly for Andy, weren't you?
Correct.
Yeah.
But I'm 19 years old. I'm highly impressionable. I went through middle school and high school as just kind of being the chubby kid, and I really found like my own self-worth from getting in good shape and feeling validated every day from like, oh, like I got treated differently when I was in better shape. You know what I mean? Like girls talk to me differently.
Sure.
And so I felt like I had found like the secret sauce. Like this was the secret. I just needed to be in good shape, like your personality doesn't actually matter. You know what I mean? Like I literally thought like this when I was 19 years old. And so based on my like love of supplements and my love of fitness and like how that was making me feel, I got a job at supplement superstores. And when I started to like get out of shape and my identity started to shape more into being good at business and not being the in shape guy, over the years, I was just like thinking only in terms of if I get in shape, it's because I want to make sure I get the respect of guys like Kyle or other people around me. Never for me like respecting myself or loving myself. It was always just for exterior validation. And so it took me being like 30 plus to literally be like, oh, you literally have only chosen to do healthy things at a as what's the word I'm looking for here? It'd be like conditional, right?
I gotcha.
It was like based on a condition of earning the respect or getting validated from an exterior source. And so again, it's never because I wanted to. It's because like I felt like I had to.
I hear that.
Right? And so now it's like, no, I really want to. I'm actually like excited to treat myself well. And it's not like a chore in my head. It's all just about reframing for me. And so now that I have a fiance and a 4-year-old, and so it's like, dude, I'm excited to play on the ground with Addie, my 4-year-old that I play with. So I'm like, what do I because dude, it's hard for me now. Like my mobility's terrible. I'm doing yoga now. Like these are just things I got to do to be healthy. And so it's fun to lean into longevity and to like treat yourself well for the right reasons. I just hadn't done that yet in my life, and that's new to me, and it's been
honestly
fun.
That's like where cool. me and him have had conflict in the past, because for me, if I don't work out, it's literally like it's the worst thing. You probably can relate to it, where it's like you got to have it. You got to have it to, like, for me mentally, for me to feel right, I got to have it. And so for him, he's talking about like all this, like, the external stuff and like
some fluffy
girls.
Shit in the Kyle world.
And I'm like, bro, but like I'm talking about just actually lifting weights. Like I got to do that. Like it makes me feel better, like mentally.
And I used to need that as well, but it would only be sadly because I just didn't have an identity underneath that. There wasn't anything below the surface. Mm-hmm. I was doing the same thing, but it was 100% dictating my self-worth.
I was like, you don't have to think about it. You can just go bench press, dude.
Sure.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Sure.
I mean, so for a lot of the gym rats, and where I was for a long time, the days off were harder than the training days.
Still like that for me.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and then you own gyms. It's like you're already in the gym. Like the rest days just came fewer and fewer. It's because it's as much as we enjoy training, it's also, especially in my younger years, my 20s, it was therapy for me, like a release, so I didn't go choke somebody out, you know what I mean? Or
totally
have a negative conversation with somebody. This is my therapy. Now, so I've kind of gone through a similar thing. Like I trained for 20 years chasing the bodybuilding dream. And then when after 2020, when I decided I wasn't going to compete anymore, I had to relearn why I wanted to train. I was like, I was doing it to achieve something, and now it's like, now I do it.
You moved your goalpost, if you will. Like it was like, I want to be an IFBB pro. That's why I'm training so hard.
Right.
And then when you said like, you know what, I'm also going to put more energy and effort into my business, and then being an entrepreneur. So you moved the goalpost from being an IFBB pro to what?
So for me, I do enjoy training. I just had to remember why I enjoyed it, because it wasn't just chasing the bodybuilding dream anymore. It was still therapy for sure. I think what I realize, though, in anything that we're going to do, if we're going to be successful, and for anti-aging, that's huge in my world now. It's like I really care about. You have to suffer. Like people wonder why I still train with. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's just my thoughts, but I think people wonder why I train with Michael Wegner, who's 314 pounds, and we train blood and guts, especially on leg day. And I do that not because I'm trying to step on the Olympia stage someday. It's because I know I got to go to those places to keep shocking my body to suffer. Because once you stop suffering and you get complacent, things start to break down, dude. You get sedentary. Like you just start putting on body fat. Your metabolism obviously slows when that happens. You just don't. There's something to be said about a struggle, whether that's in physically or in a business or in a relationship, and overcoming. Like you got to, I think that's what keeps us young, because once our body, on a physical level, once our body quit having to go through those struggles, then you start to break down, you start to age. Yeah. In my opinion, that's why I see it. So if I can put myself in a position where I'm going to be super uncomfortable for the next hour, it's going to suck. I'm going to enjoy it 10%, 90% I'm going to hate it. But my body's going to say, oh, this is still what we do. It's not time to age. It's not time to break down yet. Funny thing about, and this, I have another theory about that too. So, for 8 months, I've been on TRT I've been on testosterone for a long time, almost 20 years, TRT for the past 4 years. But I've been taking testosterone for 20 years, right? So my body's so accustomed to it. I came off for 8 months. My previous relationship, we were trying to conceive. So I came off so I could get my testosterone or my fertility level up, because I was infertile. and that worked, right? So had my sperm frozen, whatever. So I became fertile. We ended up, that wasn't the path for us. It's a blessing in disguise now looking back. But why I bring this up is I got a cataract in my right eye. I never had that before. I feel like once I came off all the testosterone, because I was at super physiological doses when I was competing, close to 2,000, you know what I mean? Like almost off the charts. Then when I came off, I was taking HCG, so it helped a little bit, but I was in the teens. And I think that signaled to my body, like, here we go, we're aging. Let's start slowly shutting down. And there is something related between testosterone and the hydration of your eyes, stuff like that. But so I just recently went to the eye doctor because it was progressing so fast. I was like, like a year ago, I was like, vision's starting to get a little blurry. And my sister, my parents were like, yeah, you're getting up there close to 40. That's when it starts happening. I was like, all right, I guess this is just how it goes. It was getting worse and worse and worse to the point where if I just look out this eye, I can just tell there's two people there, maybe. Like, it's terrible. So I go to the eye doctor. I finally got good insurance, has dental and vision, because I never had that in the past, because who needs it?
Told him you weren't vaccinated.
Nor will I ever be. So I went in there and I saw I got an appointment. It's in my network just across the road. I told it, he's like, what's going on? I was like, man, I can barely see out of my right eye if I close my left. I was like, I'm pretty sure I got a cataract. And he kind of smirks at me. And don't get me wrong, this is a nice guy. And he's good at what he does. They have so much equipment over there. They put me through all these tests, like tons of stuff. He's like, yeah, that's highly unlikely. Like laughs a little bit. He's like, 1, you're too young. 2, it'd be in both eyes. Well, let's get you looking at glasses. I'm like, well, you're the expert. I just Googled that. So. Yeah. And we do like an hour of tests. They put a bunch of stuff in my eye, dilate my eyes, which is crazy because I'm sitting there waiting on him and I'm trying to text. I can't even text because my eyes are so jacked up from the dilation. And he's like, yeah, it turns out you have a fully mature cataract in your right eye. And that developed in less than a year. And he goes, usually it doesn't move that quick. And if you do get it, you get it in both eyes. He's like, what have you been doing? And I can't think of anything other than I've been on testosterone a large majority of my life, half my life, and all of a sudden I stopped. And maybe there's not a correlation. Maybe there is. I haven't figured out because I don't take any other medicines. And so I got to go ahead and have surgery. He's like, yeah, you definitely need to have surgery. So
they're gonna do like the bubble.
They're gonna cut out the lens, remove it, and put a new one on, and I should be good to go.
What's the recovery process on that?
He said it'll be full, like back to normal in 3 weeks. They said it's not even that painful. It's like a 15-minute surgery.
That's awesome.
How old are you?
The test.
40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
that was unceremonious when you turned 40. I didn't even know you turned 40.
Bro, I don't celebrate anything.
Bro, we should have celebrated.
We can. I don't celebrate anything. I celebrate like biblical holidays. That's about it. I don't know, and I'm not opposed to it, but like I saw one of my buddies in here yesterday, and he's like, and I'm always on him, like, dude, you just drink all the time. Like, you need to chill. He's almost my age. I'm like, when are you gonna like take things seriously? Because he has these ambitions, but it always gets thrown by the wayside to do the partying. He's like, dude, I'm doing dry January. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, but my birthday's coming up, so I'm like, oh, why? He's like, well, you know my friends, you know how they are. I'm like, you need to get new friends. I was like, you're a grown man.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't mean you got to go get a table at Mosaic and pop as many bottles as possible. Like, don't you, like, want to do things the next day? I don't know. That's just me. I like to celebrate people. I like to celebrate a win. I don't like to celebrate a Wednesday.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Yeah.
I do drink, and I drink probably the most all year long during, like, hunting season.
Yeah.
And you come out of that, and it's not like I'm drinking a lot. I can't drink a lot anymore because I feel so terrible the next day. But even now, for me, a couple beers, the next day I'm waking up and I'm not the same, you know? And I think a lot of people just get to the point where they go, especially the holidays, they go through the holidays, and some people, even some people in my family, can pound alcohol through the holidays. I'm just like, what are you doing? But then they get to January and they're like, I need to reel this back a little bit.
Sure.
So I don't know.
I think the sober October and stuff like that, it's good to have because it's, especially if a group can do it, they can hold each other accountable. Mm-hmm. So I think for certain people it works.
But what are you doing in October? All I'm getting at is like it works for 30 days.
Yeah.
So I guess I feel strongly that, you know, this is my personal belief that, you know, the result that, you know, like the undoing of your journey of like for me, like gaining weight or losing weight, it's like, it's not in the, you know, I go to the doctor and they say I have high blood pressure and high cholesterol. It's like, not because of what I ate last night. It was the undoing of my habits that I had built up during the time where I was very strict. And so I feel like you develop this all or nothing by doing these conditional challenges of, I'm going to do this for 30 days. And it's like, it's not like day 30. Like we all know, like someone, for example, let's say they do Sober October. If on November 1st, they're like crushing a 12 pack because they went 31 days without alcohol, then they learned nothing. Right.
I kind of disagree with that.
Sure.
Purely from the standpoint of like, every time I've been restrictive on myself, I've built a little bit of a callus in my body that has made my willpower stronger, right? So yeah, have I had times where I've binged after I've dieted hard? Yes, but what that time that I spent dieting hard, it proved to myself up here, like you have the capacity to do that, right? And the more times I've done that, whether it's with dieting or alcohol or competing in something, training hard, all it's doing is, in my head, it's building your willpower capacity. Which is why I think, like, if you look at like a bodybuilder, there's professional bodybuilders, and you probably lived this life for a long time, that, have been on a diet or have planned out what they were going to eat for decades, Sure. And that willpower is just ridiculous, and it's because it's been practiced over and over and over again. And they probably didn't have it when they started. They probably went out and partied and drank and fell off their diet. But over time, you kind of build that willpower, and it builds that that muscle. That I think willpower is it's just kind of a muscle that you train. I was like that too, but now is if you said, hey, you can't eat anything that's not on a diet for
You talking about this, though, is really, like, I think what's important to note here is that you're valuing the process along the way, Kyle. You're valuing the process and not the result. It's like if I'm practicing my willpower was to an end of.
That's not always true, though.
I know. Oh. I'm saying I'm happy for you that you found value in the process. I would say in my personal situation, I didn't care about the process. I valued it to the extent of the result. And so it's like, if I don't get the result, that could heavily dictate the process. So anybody who's like a struggle of a yo-yo dieter, they'll have the days of where, they put in XYZ work, they step on the scale, they didn't get the result they wanted, they got pissed, and they decided to say, screw it.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Because a lot of times, like any job, our job can be grueling. You're talking about the same things over and over again. Sometimes you're understaffed in a store. We have high expectations of like education that our guys have to go through. Guys are working events. It's just like any other job that is in a company that is growing. There's times where you want to come home and really just emotionally dump onto your significant other, right?
Oh, classic.
And so we'll have and we have
Long
to tell our guys,
you gotta tell people about it.
hey, dude, you want to make an enemy at home. You want to make your partner hate what you're doing for work. Go home and do that. Yeah. Like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to create somebody that when you go home to them and you're like, I had a long day, they're like, yeah, they're working you too hard. Yeah, they're blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude.
Creating an adversary at your own house.
That's one thing that I did, like in my relationship with my wife, that I'm glad for, because when I went through a period of time where I was going to quit supplement superstores, and she was always so neutral in the whole situation.
I was his work wife in that situation, and I was the one I got all the complaints. I got all of it.
She was just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, you should just do what you think is right, and blah, blah, blah. And
get the hell out of there, man. That place sucks.
Yeah, and so because of that, she could basically help me look logically at the situation and kind of weigh the pros and cons. And she wasn't like, I hadn't been coming. And mind you, up until this point, I was working more hours than anybody in our company, and it wasn't even close, right? And so I was burnt out hard, and she knew I was burnt out, but I wasn't coming home and bitching about it. I wasn't coming home and whining about it. And because of that, she was a neutral voice in the whole thing. And part of the reason why I ended up staying working for supplement superstores in a really hard point in my life. And it was because I was able to kind of like tap into the logical side of my mind and be like, yeah, dude, this is just a phase, this is just a phase in what you're going through. It's going to end, Well,
the part of the story that I love the most, Kyle, because like all that to be said, like that's all very true what he's saying. But the part that I really love about that story the most is when he came to a crossroads where, when you're starting to feel that, like, you're in your job, you're feeling like really burn, like he's saying, the grass starts to look greener, right, elsewhere. You're starting to look around. You know, your friends are doing more fun things. They have more free time. They're getting paid more money. You're just wondering, when is this going to pay off? When is this going to pay off? All this delayed gratification. And, you know, you start to flirt with other ideas.
Yeah.
And you start to look around a little harder. And he did that long enough, Kyle did, to where he was actually like exploring another career opportunity. And they offered him the job. And now it's like you are at the crossroads, right?
Yeah.
You are now literally standing there with the fork in the road, and you have to make a decision. And all that culmination of what he's talking about, his wife was like, what are you doing, man? Like, you are someone who loves fitness. You love the gym.
She
you
said,
love health. You're
she
a meathead.
said, you're a meathead.
You're a meathead.
You're a meathead. You go to the gym every day.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was like,
Right.
you mean it?
Like, say it again.
Dude, how big am I?
But in that moment, she goes, you're a meathead. What are you doing? And so he had this completely nice, new, shiny object over here. And even though he was like working himself into the ground and, you know, 100% sacrificing a ton of time with her, she's like, go back and keep doing the hard thing.
Yeah,
And
good.
at the time,
That's a
could
good
have been leaving quite a bit of money on the table, you know?
Yeah.
And she was like, I remember we were eating at it was like a Louisiana restaurant in Edwardsville, Illinois. And she said that to me.
Huh.
She was like, you're a meathead. You're going to stay work. What are you talking about? This is all you care about doing. This is all you're going to do. To be fair, now that I understand business a little bit better, something that I learned during that time frame was like, really that whole situation could have been avoided with like communication, the unknowing of like what was coming next.
Yeah.
Right. And not feeling like we could talk about that. And so that's something that like me and Jeff do with our guys a lot. And, you know, like I said, Jeff's more the lovey-dovey type of person in our business relationship. But I do think there's a lot of value in like, you know, we had our assistant managers come in for a meeting on Wednesday, and we basically just opened up the table to them. We said, hey man, you know, what are you guys dealing with? What do you guys,
What's the hardest part
what's
of
the
life
hardest
right
part
now?
of life right now? Because I don't want somebody to get to what I got
Yeah.
to, you know what I'm saying? And want to quit. You know, I was the best guy that we had in St. Louis at the time. Right. So Andy's like, we can't lose this guy. I don't want my best guy in Kansas City to get to that point and me not know about it. And so we're very vocal about like, hey, we're the owners of the company. We can fix your problems that you're having like that, but we have to know about your problems. We have to know about them. If we don't know about them, we can't fix them. We can't work through it, you know? And so that was a big, the communication aspect of that is something that I learned. But here's the thing is like, you got to balance it with
Right.
like, don't you be a crybaby. Don't you be a crybaby.
Yeah, it's
you
tough.
know,
That's what the
like-
hardest thing for me is.
We'll
knowing
always
how to
let them
handle
know when like
people.
that's just you whining. Yeah, like we let them know if they're just whining to whine. Like,
It's very, but they
this
don't.
is all going to be hard. We all can accept the fact that like what we
Yeah.
want in life and where you want to go, success, right? Like, it's what are you willing to sacrifice to get there?
Right.
And there's going to be sacrifices along the way. And so we'll shrug our shoulders and be like, it's kind of like, it takes what it takes, man. It's not
Sometimes it'd be
ideal.
like that.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It takes what it takes.
Well, you guys started one thing that when we were getting ready for this podcast and you guys are coming on, one topic that I think is beneficial to talk about because you guys execute it better than anybody else I know is dealing with the staff, you know, and building that team. Because, I mean, I look to you guys a lot as on how to handle certain processes. Because when I got into the, like, so I own multiple businesses now. I think I employ like a little over 60 people. But when I first started the gym, like that was the first bit. Well, I started my construction company, but that was running crews, and I worked with them. But when I first started the gym, I was like, it's gonna be cool to own a gym. I'm gonna wear sweats to work. I'm gonna be jacked. It's gonna be cool. I didn't say, man, I'd really want to lead a group of people. I didn't really. It wasn't on my radar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that. And I know that I wasn't the best at it. I'm still not the best at it. I've improved a lot, in my opinion. But I think that's where you guys do so well with your staff, because there's one comment that we get over and over and over when we send people to S2 or if we're in the conversation is, dude, their staff's so knowledgeable, so nice. Every time you come in there, they're hyped. Like, that's tight. In addition to that, and I don't want to forget this because this is important, you know, my friend Corey Butler, he's a member here. He was a member down in Westport.
Yep.
He was leaving the gym one day on his phone, messing around, tripped over a curb and landed on his knees, shattered both of his patella tendons or whatever, kneecaps, right?
God.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
When
and
did this happen?
so he's walking now. He had surgery like within hours the next morning. But I hollered at him like, dude, what do you need? What's going on? Of course, he's a gym guy. He's older, a little older. I think he's in his 50s. But he's always been a gym dude. He's always he's a great guy, great Christian,
Loves
plays in the
bodybuilding.
band in his church. Like, he's a stud. And so I felt so bad for him. So the next day I went to the hospital. I brought him like beef jerky and like protein powder and stuff like that. Cause the first thing he texted me is like, dude, I don't want to lose all my gains. I'm like, you are such a gym bro. I'm like, don't worry. I'm coming, bro. And so I put together a little goodie bag and I go there to sign in and they go, he's popular. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, another guy just came out there to go see him. I was like, okay. And I went up in there and I apologize. I don't remember this gentleman's name. But there was an S2 employee in there mixing greens, mixing a bunch of, like, just had the full, everything laid out, setting him up. Corey's in bed, can't hardly move, and your guys are in there serving him.
That's awesome.
I was like,
And we don't know about it.
yeah, I didn't even know about
that's
it.
the coolest thing ever. And I was talking to Corey, I was like, how did this happen? I was like, because he and I are personal friends. Of course I'm going to come. But your staff didn't know him until they called in to place an order, and they were asking, well yeah, what's going on? And they ended up getting on the top. They're like, no, we're going to bring it to you, dude. So they literally brought it over to him. Not only did they bring it and hand deliver it, they mixed it, went through like regimens on how he should take it. Like, that was huge. Like, I already respected S2, but after that, I was like, that's the only supplement company in town that matters.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Because you guys really are big about community. It's one thing to say it, but it's different when you see something like that that's not promoted and it's behind the scenes. So, like, I wanted to make sure I brought that up because people need to know that, because it's not like you're in there selfieing with him saying S2, let's look how much we care.
Yeah.
You're literally doing it because it's the right thing to do, not because you want to get seen for it. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And dude, I appreciate you sharing that story. I'm sorry to cut you off there, Kyle. It's that we also didn't get a text from the employee. I didn't get a selfie from the employee.
Well, you
either,
obviously
right?
trained him well, and he has a good heart to do that.
Right.
Intention, man. Yeah, that's, for us, it's like, the world is becoming like very strange in a lot of different ways, from everything being automated to AI to social media, all of these things. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's like we evolved over thousands of years, to have human connection with people. Right. And I think that there's opportunity in that human connection to be a special brand, and it's not something that you can market. It's not something that you can, figure out a special thing to do. It's just, you have to have the right intention. You have to actually care about people.
Sure.
And so, though that's hard to do and pass down to a full team of people, to really get them to focus and care about the person that's in front of them and care about creating a culture and a community that revolves around doing the right thing. I just think that's the best way. That's the best way for us as the company that we are and what we see ourselves doing in the future. It's the best way for us to be able to continue to grow and make an impact on Kansas City, is just by really focusing on human interaction, man. People miss it. People long for it. I freaking hate going to the grocery store and, self-checking myself out, right? Or like dealing with the grocery checker that's got the headphones in or whatever. It's like, dude, it's society is becoming less and less and less and less about human connection, and so we are doubling down on it. That is our.
We also, dude, there's all kinds of business like savvy to this, right? Where it's like Amazon can't do that. Right. Amazon's not showing up at the hospital, right? And so years and years ago, that was a rally cry for our team as we felt, for the first time in business, that we were losing customers to convenience and online. And we will continue to, because they do that better than us. And that's just the truth, right? Like, that's the truth. They are more convenient. They could even be cheaper, all the things that go into that. But they will not remember your name, and they will not care about you as a human individual. And so that is, people can call that secret sauce. We give away all of this information all the time. It's on Andy's podcast, the MFCO Project. Like, the whole rule book's out there as far as how we do it. But if you're thinking long-term and you truly want to be around in business for a long time, those emotional investments like we're talking about will pay dividends that are compounding interest over time that like can't even be measured, right? Because it's authentic. So for both, it's like this. I try to explain this to our team. It's, hey, Luke, how many times are you going to see somebody after the first time you meet them? That's right. So you're going to meet somebody, you're going to have 3 interactions with them every time. Isn't like, because you live in the same community as them. Like, you're going to cross paths again at Sam's Club. Sure. You're going to cross paths again at the Chiefs game. And if you remember them and make them feel valued, they will remember you too. And they will appreciate that you actually remembered them. And so it's like, we all live in the same community long term. every single time you have an interaction with somebody, it should be a positive one where they leave thinking, I'm glad that I had that interaction.
Right.
And so it's just a simple, like, I think it's just like an equation of, if you truly want to stick around in business long time, if you value yourself in the sense of how you help people and how much of a result you can give, if you care about the value that you bring to the table, if you will, then why would you want to go anywhere else? If you know what I'm saying, like long term,
Well, that's
where would you want
exactly
to
what you're doing.
where would you want to give your business to elsewhere?
That's the long play, right? That's earning people's respect and loyalty because you take good care of them. That's not a turn and burn strategy, get rich and move on. You know what I'm saying?
Right. We sign these leases like you do, and it's like, we're in this community.
Right.
So let's make it a better one.
One thing on these business blogs that I've been reading is it's been the death of some of the human interaction. And one case in point was shopping malls. So shopping malls, I think there's only like 100, 150 left in the United States. And they said they saw that coming because all the online commerce. And so, but what they didn't predict was, well, people don't just go to the mall to buy jeans. They go to the mall to buy jeans and to run into their friend they knew from high school and to, have interaction, right? So when you take that away, these businesses that incorporate that community, the interaction,
social interaction,
all of a sudden are even more valuable. That's why with the gyms, I tell my staff, and luckily this has been my model for a long, long time, it's the member experience is the number one. And we got to build community. We got to lean into the fact like this. Yeah, you can lift, and that's super important, no doubt. But it's also the relationships you build with other members, the relationships you build with staff, the activities we do together, the self-confidence they gain, the support they give other people. Because while that's getting more and more scarce in the world, like you mentioned grocery store, I Instacart. Bring it to me.
Yeah,
I'll pay you for that.
Yeah.
And for me, a young single entrepreneur, that's really important. But if everything's trending to this digital, no interaction, you're going to see that's going to impact people in a way I don't think everybody's considering. And I think businesses like ours that identify it early and really lean into the human aspect of things and the relational part of it, I think it's going to be a superpower.
Yeah.
We hope, but
there are going to be, we are we're very aware that there are certain types of people that are just going to go fully digital, and they are going to, be the type of person that wants to work from home, wants to Instacart, all of these things, and they're perfectly fine basically having very little human interaction outside of those they choose to have human interaction with. But we also realize that there's a big portion of people that were like, dude, I hate working from home. I'm going nuts. I gotta get back to the office. I gotta go talk to people. I need to go do
extroverts
something.
exist,
Sensory acuity. So it's basically being able to read the person's body language and the way that they're talking to you, right? So you walk into our store, right, and you have
I mentioned keys jiggling, car running.
One of our guys that's newer starts helping you out. You're obviously a big guy that's in really good shape. Let's say you're being really short with them. You go right to what you want to grab, and you're being really short with them. You go right to the counter. The sensory acuity would tell you what? It would tell you that this guy knows what he's doing. He probably is not super looking for help in this interaction. So you want to make a friend, right? Hey man, you're a pretty big guy. Where do you work out at? Oh, I'm the owner of the foundation. Oh, I love that gym. You know what I'm saying? Getting into a conversation with him instead of being like, hey man, you want to, here, let me tell you about, protein.
Sure.
Do you understand protein?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Situational awareness.
Yeah.
Versus the person that comes in and maybe they're just looking around. They could be your still same size because that doesn't really matter as much as, there's plenty of people that are looking for help that have all different types of bodies. But, it's just looking around, kind of checking things out. When you say, hey man, what's going on? Oh, going pretty good. I've never been in here before, blah, blah, blah.
So they're not short.
They're not short. They're open to conversation. Okay. Now let's get into maybe a deeper conversation with this person. That's hard to teach somebody who's 19 years old and doesn't have a lot of life experience. Like for
they don't
us,
have the reps.
I've talked to hundreds of thousands of people in my life of working here. So it's I've entered a lot of different situations and a lot of different conversations with people, but for a 19-year-old kid that grew up on the internet, a little bit harder. You're not just teaching a person about supplements, about nutrition, about training. You're also teaching them about people,
how to read a room, right?
Yeah.
Then the phrase that we use and Kyle, honestly, at a young age was always really great at this with customers where people don't care what you know until they know you care. And so it's it's a saying, we say it over and over and over again because this is what the biggest fear for a customer that hasn't been in our store is that I'm going to walk in and some like know-it-all beefcake meat head is going to stand up and be like, what do you want? It's over there. Like they're gonna make them feel less than. Mm-hmm. You know, people already think that, and so you could be the strongest looking. I know what like you should trust what I know, right?
Right.
But if you walk in and the person's on their phone and they look up and they're like, buy this protein, this is what I take. They'd be like, I don't know if you care about me enough to know that like you're going to give me trustworthy advice.
Sure.
And so like that's the part where you know we can lose a lot of customers if somebody is too quick to want to give advice. You know what I'm saying? Because it means you're not really taking the time to get to know them. How do you know that that's the best thing for them, right? And so you have to really make sure you're taking time to show them that you care before you tell them all about what you know.
There's so many intricacies of customer service that at the top of all of it, you know, you can get into the weeds as far as like this is how you should execute it.
Yeah,
but at the top of it, if you just have the absolute best intentions and you're absolutely trying to help people to the best of your ability, people feel that. That has to be like the starting
way
point.
to break it down, right?
Yeah, that has to be the starting point. And unfortunately, it's so simple, but it's so hard for people to do.
Because our DM, you know, Fred, he has a great saying for this, and that is intent has a smell. Like people can smell it when it's off. Okay. And it's like they're not going to say it, and they don't even know what they're feeling. They're feeling it though. They just know that it's like this doesn't seem off. This doesn't seem right. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And this is a really hard thing for a young person. Somebody when they're 18 to 24, they're getting that first job. It's typically out of high school. You know, everybody was the server or the bartender or the busser or the lifeguard or the babysitter, right? There's just the classic job. Somebody gets a job that's kind of like outside of the realm of what's normal, and they have to learn along the way about what doing a good job looks like. Because I think most people, and I would say like a lot of the younger demographic does get a bad rep about their work ethic and so forth, right? Like, oh, they're not as good as, you know, these young kids, they just, you know, they're not as easy, you know, whatever. But I think it's all bullshit, to be honest with you. It's just that they weren't taught these things. And so, like, weird enough, you have to take on that responsibility as the employer to teach these young kids what's important when it comes to the experience, right? And so they all want to do a good job. You have to teach them what that looks like. And unfortunately, right, when you have a bad customer service experience as the customer, when that's happening, you can sense that the employee is trying to do a good job for somebody else. They're trying to do a good job for their boss. They're trying to make their manager happy. They're trying to make the owner happy. And they're not really listening to me, the customer. I'm trying to tell you what's going to make me happy. And if you make me happy, that's what's going to make the owner happy. Yeah. That's what's going to make the boss happy. Yeah. And they don't get that yet. They're like, oh, I need to make sure I sell this many of these. And you're like, dude, that's not me. Like, but I could tell a bunch of friends about you if you just listen to what I'm saying. Sure. You know what I mean? And so we watch our staff, for example, try to make a friend, because that's part of our business model. Like, make sure that you are genuinely trying to get to know people. You're not just clerking them and saying, see ya, you know? Like, there's no real friendship there. Right. But if they were jiggling their keys, and if their car is running, and their card is out, and
they're not facing you, they're sitting like this, you know? Like,
should you be like, yeah, man, so, like, what are you up to today? You know, what gym you go to? Like, dude, man, like, hey, I love this flavor too. I'm going to get you out of here as fast as can. Yep. And you just tell them that, then all the other questions can be fine as long as you're moving. Yeah. As you're talking, but it's this, read the situation. Do the best, like, so the saying, I can sum all this up as, do the best job you possibly can to optimize for what that person's looking for, and read every single person differently, because it's all going to be different.
I went through and I redid all of our training for our company wide last year, and it was quite the undertaking. And what I realized at the end of it is that for what we do, you can do everything. You can create whatever kind of training you want. You can do, you know, we have a 3 step hiring process, all of these things. And for the most part, when you step into our job, you're just going to suck for 6 months. You're just going to not be very good for 6 months. And that's because you don't know how to relay information correctly, as far as like, you'll have the knowledge in your head. You don't know how to talk about it with people without sounding like a robot. Okay. A lot of people don't have the people skills when they first get hired on. So it's like, you unfortunately just have to talk to a lot of people to like settle into what you're doing.
As a business owner and managing people, that's actually reassuring to hear, because I think we have high expectations for people sometimes, especially you bring in somebody high caliber and you just expect them to slay it out the gate. Yeah. But, you know, if you realize it's more than just having the knowledge, it's really fully taking on the role. Yeah, it makes sense. It's going to take some time. And so I think it's easy to be frustrated with a staff member that's not performing exactly how you want them to right out the gate, but knowing that it just takes time. I think that's personally, I'm going to take that away. That way I'm not like,
especially if they have no experience, right? Like you always get excited about that employee that gets started and they're doing really well right out the gate. They typically have some kind of experience, or the bare minimum life experience. It's no secret that if we have a hire who's 25, they're going to be better with people than the person that's 19. You know, they just have so much more life experience. They can relate to so many more people that they talk to.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's hard to take advice from a young kid. You know what I mean? It truly is. As you're an older guy, it's hard to take advice from a younger kid.
No, it's absolutely true.
And so they have to demonstrate that they have some form of humility to you, that they're not going to just speak from the hip about any which thing. You know what I'm saying? And so like a great tactic I like to use to ensure that because when you have a 10-second, interaction with somebody, it's hard not to judge a book by its cover in those moments. And so if I meet a young kid who's really, seems overeager, I'm going to like definitely pump the brakes and be like, yeah, I'm good, man. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm talking to a young kid who seems to have humility, who doesn't seem eager, and actually starts to ask me questions, maybe asks me for advice, now I'm like, my entire perception is completely flipped. And I'm like happy to talk to this young man who seems like they have humility. They'd like to get better. They're striving for success in some capacity, and they see something about you that you like, and maybe you're proud of that thing that they noticed. And now all of a sudden I'm like having a conversation with this young guy.
Sure.
And he's like, man, what do you think I should do here? And then all of a sudden he's like, I've never tried that, but have you ever tried this? And I'm like, no, I've never tried that. Now I'm open to it, And so, my favorite way to try to earn trust is to give trust.
Okay.
What do you think I should do? And then maybe you're open to what I have to say after that, because I took the time to listen and I gave you a pragmatic answer.
Yeah.
So the fastest way I feel like you can build trust with people is give it, but don't do it in a cheese way. Don't do it in a bullshit way. It can't have this sniff of wrong intent. It's just a situation where it all comes down to individual. But if you're asking a question to somebody, it should be authentic.
I agree 100%. And you guys execute that extremely well. If you didn't want to stay on with S2 as much, you could always step out and consult, I'm sure, on training staff.
Dude, I want to consult about every business that I walk into now, because I'm like,
I'll take some help for sure. Like that's the problem.
No, not you. Like I'm saying, like any retail business that I go into, I'm like, these guys suck, dude. I understand why people are buying online, because most retail sucks now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, starting the business, the easiest thing to do would have been to franchise for me.
Yeah.
But I had different plans, and as a result, that meant that I had to learn it all and still continue to learn it. Not that you know everything when you get a franchise model. It depends on the quality of the franchise, right? But so that's why we're trying to do our best and learn along the way. So we've been in business since 2015, and we're getting so much better. Like I didn't know anything when I started, but it's getting your staff bought in to care and have those relationships. I tell my staff that whoever has the most authentic conversations is going to be the guy who wins. The more relationships you can have. And I tell them, there's 3 reasons why people don't join the gym. And it's because they don't believe in you, what you tell them. They don't believe in the gym, or they don't believe in themselves. And so those are the 3 main things you got to try and overcome. And you overcome that by getting to know them, figuring out what issues they really are trying to overcome. But
everybody's got a button, you know what I mean, that you got to press.
That's like a consequential question. What if you don't do this today? I like to paint the picture of figure out what they're going for. Like, man, I just want a 6-pack. I never had a 6-pack. So I was like, imagine how you'd feel in 6 months if you had that 6-pack. So you start getting them to consider and visualize, man, what is it going to be like? How are you going to feel about yourself? How are you going to be received at the beach when you take your shirt off? What's your woman going to think of you seeing that you're taking care of your body? Which your kids are going to see you're dedicated and you have discipline. Like, imagine how that's going to feel. Instead of the $65.99 today. You know what I mean? Like, not that stuff doesn't matter, but, so many people think on the, like, the negative side of things, but you let them walk down that road of how it feels when it works. Then they're like, dude, I'll run through a brick wall right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I love doing that. Like, just painting that picture. And you can do it as a consequence question too. Yeah. Like, well, you just said you're upset because you're 30 pounds overweight. It's going to take another 30 to make you feel more upset to get you in here? Or is it going to mean when you're 60 pounds overweight that you're going to give up totally You're going to quit interacting with people.
Well, I'm just gonna stop drinking soda, and I'm gonna start, walking every day. I don't know if I need a gym, Matt. And then you're like, yeah, you tried that strategy.
Exactly.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Like you walked in here for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the beauty of all this is in our businesses is that we're legitimately helping people. Their lives are improved. We're not owning a liquor store or a bar where people say, gosh, that made the worst mistake of my life there. You know
Man,
what I mean?
This is going on that. I worked at McDonald's for like 6 months when I was in high school.
That was my first
Breakfast
job.
burrito king.
What was your first job?
That was my first
Oh,
job.
that was your first
I used to
job.
work
Did
on
we
farms
talk about
back in
this
the
before?
day. I mean, until I was old enough to get a real job, I worked on farms. And then, my first day, my dad dropped me off, picked me up. I was like, I hate that. Never doing that again. He's like, oh, really? Because, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
He made me work there for a year before I could quit.
So many entrepreneurs have like the most humbling first jobs.
I legitimately was like, so I grew up in a small town, and it was like, okay, you can work at the golf course, which wasn't hiring, or you can work at like McDonald's. I remember, so I worked in the mornings, and I always was the guy that gave out the food, right? So there was a lady. There was
the counter?
Drive-through window. There was a lady that used to come through the drive-through window every day. And back then, this is 2004. She would order like $20 worth of McDonald's every morning, right? She would drive through the window, past the window, and she would have to open her door because for some reason she couldn't roll down, like she couldn't get her arm back to roll down her window wherever her window was. So she'd have to open the door, and she was huge, and she'd have to reach back like this to grab the food from me, and I'd give her the food. At the time, I knew her name because she was there every single morning. But I remember that was like the first time that I felt like, what am I doing, dude?
Yeah.
Like I'm literally just handing this lady death every day.
Enabling, yeah.
I'm just handing her death
McDonald's in
every day.
That's a lot of McDonald's.
Bro,
dude.
she was hammering.
20 breakfast burritos.
And also, it was kind of crazy,
Kyle would sell those afterwards. That's why I called them the breakfast burrito.
It's my first real entrepreneurial.
You would sell them outside of McDonald's.
Yes,
he brought the trash ones.
So
over to school.
like I was an athlete in high school, so I was really good friends with our head coach. He led our S&C program, right? Our strength and conditioning program. He let me come into like our study hall time for lunch, right? And I noticed that my manager at McDonald's was throwing away the breakfast burritos every day, and he'd throw away like 50 of them.
Opportunity.
This guy's name was Vance.
I'm
and I
kind
go,
of impressed.
I go, Vance, are you seriously throwing away those every single day? He's like, got to throw them away every day. Got to make them new every day. I was like, can I have them? He's like, what are you going to do with them? I was like, I'll take them home at lunch, and I'll just put them in my fridge so I can eat them anytime I want, or put them in my freezer so I can heat them up and eat them anytime I want. He's like, sure, go ahead and take them. So I started taking them, and I'd go up to study hall, which was right. I'd go up to study hall, and I'd sell them for $1 a piece.
That's
and I'd just be cleaning up, dude. And I was like, this is like taking
convenience
candy from a baby.
Man.
You know what I'm saying?
Walking into a high school with some breakfast burritos. That's a win.
I mean, everybody starts with something, you know what I mean? And it's like everything's an idea until you execute it.
Mm-hmm.
So
we know there's something I would say on this, and that is when we first opened up our first location, there wasn't a ton of people that truly like actually believed in us. Since meeting us, you definitely have supported us when we had no stores, right? When we had 0 stores and we just knew you through bodybuilding. And so just want to say appreciate your friendship and
that's
your
for
support
sure
that you've given us since the beginning.
No, likewise. And to be honest, my support doesn't always come easy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm not like a fair weather. Like I don't really jump on bandwagons very often, but you guys just keep delivering all the time. And you've always been really good to us. Helped a ton with this location, especially Westport too, and Liberty. It's been reciprocated. It's much appreciated, but you know me, I don't try. It's not my aim to be friends with every single person.
Can't do it.
No, it's not.
If you're for everyone, you're for no one.
I want to get along, but at the same time, like, I think it's obvious when it's real.
Yeah.
And those are the type of people I want to align with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we're the same way. We realize we're trying to bring the fitness community together in Kansas City. That's like the ultimate goal with our podcast and Protein Bros. But we're also realists, and we realize that some people are not going to want to be a part of that, or fit into that. There's chains that, their headquarters are not here. The people that run those companies are not here. And it's like, they're if we can't connect with those people, then, they're probably going to be a little bit on the outside, so it's part of it.
Yeah. I mean, if your aim is to please or serve everybody, it's not going to work out, because then the people that everybody's welcome at any of my business, no doubt, but there's going to be some times where there's a gym that's a better fit.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to compromise what we do extremely well and water it down just so we try to appease just everybody. So, know your market, be authentic of what you're doing. And I think that's what makes it, you have the staying power to stay around for a while, right?
Yeah.
Be ruthless with your values, man. Be ruthless with what you stand for. And if something comes along where it doesn't work out, but you were still true to yourself and true to your values, then you have to trust in that and move forward and not give it so much credit. Like if someone, again, like if we lose a customer based on price, I'm just like, well, what can I do there?
Sure.
We're not ever gouging our customers. We don't have a model where our pricing
And
is
for those
unfair.
listening,
It's
we
always
do
fair.
have the lowest prices most of the time.
We do.
Most
That's
of
what
the
I'm saying. I'll put it this way, like, because I know there's always an asterisk, like someone, if they look hard enough, they can find it cheap or whatever. But we'll always be fair. You'll always pay a fair price. And if you want to drive across town and you saved $3, or it's never a local place. Like if you want to buy online and save $3, like I get it, but I do want to like annotate something that I feel like no one really talks about enough when it comes to local business, or in our case, local fitness. There's a tremendous amount of things happening in your community every day. There's causes that you want to get behind. There are people in need. There are things going on that want to draw eyeballs to. And these are the things that online companies cannot do. So when you go to a church fundraiser, you're not going to see Amazon there. When you go to a kids fundraiser, you're not going to see Amazon there. When you go to a local 5K to help cancer, you're not going to see Amazon there. But we'll be at every one of those. And we will give prizes to those. And we will actually have people physically there to support that endeavor. And, there is a little bit of that baked into your price. That's just how,
right.
And so if you value living where you live and wanting to contribute and give back to your community that's serving you every day, it's just a great way to do it by simply putting your dollars in the hands of people that are impacting your community.
Yeah, I would agree. And like I said before, I think it's going to be more and more valuable, and I think people are going to appreciate it more and more as things change. So
I hope so.
Keep doing what you're doing. It's obviously working.
Cool. Thanks,
That's
man.
nice. Yeah, you guys, appreciate you coming on. It's been fun talking. I have a feeling we could just do this all day.
Yeah.
It's very true. We
a good
probably
wrap-up.
could.
I know you guys got things to do, but
Maybe I can talk Jeff into a workout with me.
I actually plan. I wore my
Let's
workout
go.
gear.
Sweet,
I'm
sweet.
working out right after this. You're gonna work
That's
out on your
what's up.
jeans, dog.
That's what's, man, I wish you guys would have told me
Let's
that. I
go.
would have worked out with you.
Yeah.
I got one in real quick this morning.
It's 12:30. I'm ready to go.
Right on.
This
Right
is
on.
12:30.
Sweet. Gentlemen,
Thanks,
I
man.
appreciate you.
Yep. Thank
Love
you,
you, man.
man.
Thanks so much for having us on here.